right, in this video, we're going to look at the next 3 learning objectives. So in this one, we're using the first derivative test. The first derivative test says if I go from increasing to decreasing, I'm going to get a maximum. If I go from decreasing to increasing, I'm going to get a minimum. All right, so that's what the first derivative test says. All right, so we have this function. At what values of x does f have a relative maximum? All right, so what we need to do is take its derivative if we want to use the first derivative test. And this is a chain rule problem, so, or not chain rule, sorry, a product rule problem, because we have e to the negative x times x squared plus 2x. So I keep e to the negative x the same, and I multiply by the derivative of that, which is 2x plus 2. I'm going to add, I keep x squared plus 2x the same, and I multiply by the derivative of e to the negative x, which is e to the negative x times negative 1. Now the next thing we do is figure out when this is 0, so we can figure out when it goes from increasing to decreasing. So we want to set this equal to 0. One thing we do is we can take these e to the negative x and factor it out. So we're going to get this e to the negative x at the front. Then that's 2x plus 2. And this negative 1 here is getting multiplied by x squared plus 2x. So we're going to get minus x squared minus 2x equals 0. An exponential function is never 0, so we don't even have to worry about this. We can just like divide this over here, and it goes away. So now we have negative x squared, the 2x's cancel, plus 2 equals 0. Subtract the 2, negative x squared equals negative 2, divide by negative, we get x equals plus or minus the square root of 2. All right, so those are the places where my maxes and mins can happen, because that's where my derivative is 0. And now we just have to make a number line. Negative square root of 2 over there, square root of 2 over here. Some test points, 0. The square root of 2 is about 1.4, so I could plug in, again, you could just be safe if you didn't know exactly what the square root of 2 is. I'm plugging like 5 and negative 5. Right. Again, we're just looking at positive and negative, so if I plug in 0 into my derivative function, this is going to be 2 times, again, e to the negative x is always positive, so e to the x is 2. This is going to be plugging in 0. So this whole term goes away because that right-hand term is 0, so 2, and that's a positive number. When I plug in 5, I'm going to get 10 plus 2 is 12 e to the negative x's, but I'm going to subtract 25 plus 10, which is 35 e to the negative x's. So again, you're subtracting the bigger thing. That's going to give us negatives. All right, and negative 5, I'm going to get negative 12. This would be 25 minus 10 is 25, but again, I'm still subtracting the bigger one. It's going to give me negative values. So if I want a relative max, all right, negatives means I'm decreasing, positive means I'm increasing, negative decreasing. So the maximum happens there at the square root of 2. So my final answer should be D. This one is basically the same thing, but you don't have to do any of the starting work. We have this function from 0 to 10, from 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6. All right, those are our little intervals. They say from 0 to 2, my derivative is negative, which means I'm decreasing. From 2 to 4, the derivative is positive, so I'm increasing. 4 to 6, it's negative. 6 to 10, it's positive. All right, so what am I going to having? I'm going to have a minimum down here, a maximum up there, and a minimum down here. So 2 minimums, 1 maximum, which is C. All right, this one is similar to the first one, but they give you the derivative, so we don't have to take the derivative. We just use that function, so make sure you always check to see if there's already the prime there. All right, so that's the derivative of the function. So if we want to see if the original is has a max or min, we do our, well, I guess before we do the number line, we got to figure out when it's 0. Negative 1. All right, so we have negative 1 and 2 on our number line. Those are the places where it's 0. We look around those places. We can plug in negative 3, 0, and 5. Again, there's nothing special about the test points that you pick. If I plug in -3, I'm going to get -3 minus 2 is negative, -3 plus 1 is negative, so those cancel out and give me a positive. Plug in 0, I get a negative. If I plug in 5, 5 minus 2 and 5 plus 1 are both positive. So what's going to happen? It goes increasing, decreasing, increasing, so I'm going to get 1 maximum and 1 minimum. Right, 1 maximum and 1 minimum is C. And 16, they give you the graph of the derivative. Again, it's f prime of x. And we're going to find where the local maxes and mins are for the original function f. So one's going to happen. It's always possible for them to happen when our derivative is 0. So just 4 possibilities. X equals -2, x equals -1, x equals 0, and x equals 1. All right, and the first derivative test says if my derivative goes from negative to positive, that's decreasing to increasing, I'm going to get a minimum. So at -2, I get a min. At -1, my derivative is positive, which is increasing, but it's positive on the right, so it's still increasing, which means I get neither a min or a max, so we can kind of cross that one out because it's not an extrema. At 0, my derivative goes from positive, which is increasing, to negative, which is decreasing, which is going to give me a maximum. And at 1, just like at -2, I'm going from a negative derivative, which is decreasing, to a positive derivative, which is increasing, gives me a minimum. All right, so make sure you recognize that this is the derivative graph and not the original graph, because if the original graph, my extrema would be here, there, and there. All right, but the derivative graph, it's where it's 0, tells me where my original extrema are. This one's all about finding absolute extrema. So remember, there's 2 places absolute extrema can happen: at critical points or endpoints. All right, so to find critical points, we take the derivative, and then we set it equal to 0. And this one, I'll just factor out 3x. Get x equals 0 and x equals 2. All right, then I make my chart to figure out where my max and min are going to happen. All right, I always use my endpoints, 1 and 5/2. And then my critical points, notice that 0 is a critical point, but it's not in the region I care about. So 0 I can kind of just get rid of and just look at 2. All right, if I plug in 1, I'm going to get 3 minus 1 is 2. If I plug in 2, I'm going to get 12 minus 8, which is 4. If I plug in 5/2, I'm going to get, let's see, this one I actually have to write out, 25 over 4 minus 125 over 8. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for a minimum. All right, so actually I have to figure out this. This is going to be 150 over 4, or sorry, 150 over 8. So 125 over 8, which is 25 over 8. All right, so which of these numbers is the smallest? I'm looking for a minimum. 25 divided by 8. 8 times 3 is 24, so this is a little bit bigger than 3. So if I'm looking for the smallest number, that number is a little bit bigger than 3, so 2 is my smallest number. Oops. All right, so B is our right answer. All right, so all these questions are going to be the same. All right, we're trying to find the absolute max, g prime of x, 12x cubed minus 24x squared. We want that to be 0, so here I'm going to factor out 12x squared. And that's going to be behind an x minus 2. Now, again, I get 0 and 2. All right, so now I have to make my chart. I can plug in -2, 0, and 2. If I plug in 0, I'm going to get 0. All right, so that's the easy one. If I plug in -2, let's just use the calculator to make it go a little bit faster. All right, we're plugging into the original 3x to the 4th minus 8x cubed. If I plug in -2, I'm going to get 112. If I plug in +2, I'm going to get -16. All right, so where does the absolute maximum happen? The absolute maximum happens at -2. right, same thing. We're looking for the absolute minimum, so we're going to look at our derivative to find our critical points. 12 minus 3x squared. Set that equal to 0. All right, this one's going to be, subtract the 12, divide by negative 3. We get plus or minus 2. And make our chart, our endpoint 0 and 3. All right, negative 2 is a critical point, but it's not in the region we care about, so we just have to plug in 2. If I plug in 0, I'm going to get 0. Again, I'm just going to use the calculator to make it go a little bit faster. Instead of, if I plug in 2, I'm going to get 16. If I plug in 3, I'm going to get 9. All right, so when does my absolute minimum happen? Or what is the absolute minimum? The absolute minimum is 0. And one more time, all right, what is the absolute minimum of this function on this interval? All right, find my critical points first. Set it equal to 0. I get negative 1. My endpoints and my critical point, plug all those in. If I plug in negative 4, I get negative 7. If I plug in negative 1, I get negative 16. If I plug in 4, I get 9. So what is my absolute minimum? Is the lowest value I get is there. So my min is negative 16.
The last learning objective in this video that we'll cover is 5.6, so determining concavity of functions. So concavity has to do with the second derivative. All right, and remember, if it's concave up is when the second derivative is positive and it looks like a cup, and then concave down is when the second derivative is negative and it looks like a frown. All right, so in this very first question, we're looking at this graph in the point P. All right, what do we know about P? All right, when we think about the first derivative at P, whenever you're at the top of a hill or the bottom of a valley, you have a horizontal tangent, which means your derivative is 0. So it's not positive or negative. Right? 0 is not positive or negative, so neither of those are right. So now we're looking at the second derivative, and we're looking at concavity. And if you think about this point at P, all right, it's shaped down like a frown, which means our second derivative is going to be negative. All right, so our correct answer is D. For 22, we're trying to find the intervals where something is concave up. So these are just like the increasing, decreasing problems we did. The only difference is you take the second derivative instead of the first derivative. So I take the first derivative, and I take the derivative of that, 6x minus 12. And then we're going to make our number line, so we want to set it equal to 0. We get x equals 2. So our number line just has 2 on it. So a test point to the left of 2 could be 0, to the right of 2 could be 4. And again, we're plugging into our second derivative because we want to know if that is positive or negative because it tells us concavity. So if I plug in 0, I get negative 12, which is negative. If we plug in 4, I get 24 minus 12, which is positive. So I want to be concave up, means my second derivative is positive, and that happens from 2 and then on forever after that. So 2 to infinity is the correct answer. At 23, all right, they give us the derivative function. So again, always make sure you look at what function they're giving you. And we want to figure out when it's concave down. So if we already have the derivative, we need to take the derivative one more time to get the second derivative. So that's going to be 4x plus 12. And it's just like the previous problem. So we're going to set it equal to 0. Subtract 12 in this case. And divide by 4 to get negative 3. So now our number line just has negative 3. Some test point 0 and negative 5. I'll start with 0. If I plug in 0, I'm going to get 12. Again, I'm plugging into the second derivative, so that's going to be positive. If we plug in negative 5, negative 20 plus 12 is negative. So if I want to be concave down, it's in this part of the number line, so to the left of negative 3, which is A. And last one, same thing. They give us the original function in this case, so we have to take the derivative twice. And our second derivative is 12. All right, 12 is never 0, but 12 is always positive. So when is our function concave up? It's concave up for the entire
real line. All right, it's always concave up because the second derivative is always positive.